All right, welcome to the stock market recap for Monday, June 30th, end of Q2. I'm not going to show my face because I'm not feeling too well, and you guys don't need to see that. There's much prettier charts out there right now. So we'll go over the indexes, liquid leaders, a few ETFs, and then long and short setups going into tomorrow. First, QQQ, new highs, another gap up and strong close. We are starting to accelerate into new highs, which, if you take a look at 2020, after we retook new highs, we had an acceleration move and then random 5% down day. I'm sure there was some type of COVID news that caused that, but 5% down day, and then it chopped sideways for about 2.5 weeks, and then we picked up the uptrend again. And that's kind of what I'm expecting here. We're definitely starting to see some FOMO in the market. A lot of high speculative names are running, and it feels like things are getting a little too good, which we'll get to with the leaders. SPY, new highs, gap up, kind of a doji close, not anything bad, up 0.5% on the day. IWO, gap up inside candle, almost a wick play. I would say basically a wick play. So if you see a break to the upside and we actually can close above the previous high here, that's when I really expect to see an accelerated couple day move, especially in small caps. We have a shortened trading week with the half day on Thursday, and then the market closed on Friday for the 4th of July, excuse me. So could see a little run into the end of the week there. ARKK gap up but closed on the low, still above the 5-day EMA on light volume. Whenever you close above the 5-day, I still think it's a positive action. And this is set up to where if we get a gap up and we rally through these highs, we can get another ignite bar like this before any pullback. And Bitcoin, BTC, looking incredible here, putting in a higher low last week into the 20-day moving average, really tightening up. And we're starting to see some Bitcoin miners and MSTR, Coinbase, all acting really well. So that's a theme that we want to be focused on. Okay, going to the liquid leaders, Robinhood stole the show today. Massive move up on volume, highest volume in over a year. Strong close. It's up after hours as well, ending the day up 12.7%. I think it was up another 3% after hours. And this is just a great chart to go over and really study the price action, how it came off the lows, how it got through the 50-day, the first test of the 20-day, how it held, and then the multiple gap ups as this is being supported. And every time you pull back into a gap zone, that was your best risk reward spot every single time. So the liquid leader in the market, in my opinion, the best stock, and it is starting to get a little extended when you have the highest volume in over a year while you're a couple percent at least away from the 20-day moving average. Um, we're basically getting into an accelerated move here for an extension. PLTR, great action today. We had an ugly close on Friday under the 20-day moving average. And just like we did from June 5th to June 6th, we followed it up with a gap up. This one a little bit weaker, and why I'll be kind of focusing on this on the short side later. But if we can follow through and take out today's high, that would kind of show more of this type of action where we're just big shakeout on volume and then rally into new highs. But this has been kind of churning a little bit more. You see a couple of these high volume um, crush candles here. So we'll see how this acts. If we follow through to the downside, that's the first liquid leader that we're actually getting a warning sign from. But you can't be too concerned about that because it closed up 4.3% today. CRWV, nice little, very small gap up, but tried to rally through Thursday and Friday's highs, closed kind of near the lower part of the range, right at the 5 and the 10-day moving average. This does feel like momentum's kind of waning a little bit, but an ignite bar like one of these where we get up 25%, I mean, that would turn it around, but we are starting to stall a little bit. Let's see how it acts on the 20-day moving average if we pull into that area at 150. CrowdStrike, new highs today. Great action with a gap up, closing at the high of the day. Cybersecurity, I still think is one of the leading groups in the market. GEV, AI energy play, inside candle over the 5-day moving average. Hammer candle closing at the highs. Just phenomenal action. You can see when we did pull back, we pulled back to the 20-day moving average and support gap, pulled back to the 10-day moving average and support gap, and we held those every time, which is exactly what you want to see out of the leader. NVIDIA, basically a flat day today, but closed higher in the range with some space to the 5-day moving average. Pull back into that area and the gap zone at like 155 would be perfectly healthy. This is kind of the institution's favorite stock to build positions into. So the fact that this is back at new highs shows just a risk appetite for the institution. Roblox, actually down today, down 0.4%, but closed very strong in the daily range, back over the 5-day moving average. This has just been such a monster stock, riding that 5-day on expansion. And then anytime it pulls back to the 10-day, it gets supported. So a change in character would be a close under the support gap, under the 10-day moving average. But even then, you have this gap zone in the 20-day EMA. That's going to be a key spot for me to watch. ZS, we confirm this support gap, but we do have a very small unfilled gap down. First of the, I guess, let's see, Palantir didn't gap down. Yeah, so ZS, first of the liquid leaders with a gap down, but you can see we opened on the low, closed on the high, and we saw strong action out of CRWD as well. So I still think that cybersecurity space is fine. I mean, you close over the 5-day EMA, so you can't be too concerned. And Spotify, the weakest of the leaders, still was only down 0.8%, undercut the 5-day moving average and closed high in the range. So indexes acting great, leaders acting great. Let's go to a couple ETFs. We saw BLOK, BLOK, that made new highs with another gap up. Coinbase and Robinhood are heavily owned in that ETF, so it makes sense with Robinhood up 12.7%, 12.8%, that this would have a nice day. But a great response to the 20-day EMA is what I want to point out here on the 23rd. Just a shakeout of the pullback lows, shake out the 20-day and the support gap low, and then we just rip higher. That's what strong markets do. IGV, wanted to cover this. Big gap up after the ugly close on Friday. Closed right near highs, not quite new all-time highs, but very strong. Um, Cyber, we covered a couple of individual stocks that made new all-time highs today, so that's great to see. Financial ETF XLF actually had the highest close, not the highest intraday price action, but highest close after a nice gap up. Monster strength in the market. FDN, Internet ETF, new highs. ITA, Defense and Aerospace, new highs. And then the two laggards, XLE and XOP, just continue to be weak under the 20-day moving average. Okay, got a couple long setups, only six to watch because we are getting pretty extended, and I'm kind of preparing for that pullback and then some volatility in the indexes. But we see Bitcoin as the next group set up for a potential rally into new highs. So MSTR had a great day today. HUT is right there. We got the 5, the 10, the 20, and the 200-day moving average all underpriced, starting to curl up here. We're just looking for a break over today's high, and then stop would be the low of the day or the 10-day moving average for this one. Because we are extended, I really want to play things for performance boosters instead of like core positions. So if any of these names don't work immediately once I get into them, I'm just going to be cashing out and playing some defense. SMR, this used to be on the liquid leaders list. It trades a little funky, so I took it off for NVIDIA last week. Now we had an inside candle, close above the 5 and the 10-day moving average. A couple different ways to play this is if we have a pullback in the market, an undercut of the support gap in the 20-day moving average at 36.60 would be a really nice entry point versus the low of the previous pullback, or just on strength through today's high and then stop at today's low. ETOR IPO stock. This is just kind of playing off the market that we're in, a risk on market, and you get an IPO that has stopped going down and started to tighten up. They can get explosive in a real way. We've seen it with CRCL, which we'll cover in a second here, and then we've seen it with CRWD. So just keep that in mind. Looking for a break over today's high, and then the stop would be the low of that day. I don't want to give it the full range here, just because it's an IPO and the market's already a little extended, and this hasn't been participating just yet, but if we see a breakout in IWO, I think ETOR can have a chance to go. CRCL really is losing momentum, and I'm only putting it on the list to more so gauge the momentum in the market. If we see a break over today's high and a close over the 5-day moving average, that could reignite a move here. But the fact that this lost the 5-day, had a tight day, then lost the 10-day, had a tight day, and didn't respond while the market was strong today, makes me think that this is less likely to work. But if it does break to the upside, that would kind of signal that we're in that last stage of the FOMO rally. And that's the most fun part of the rally is that last bit because you see moves like Robinhood, but you see it all over the market. So we'll see if that happens. Coinbase gap down on Friday, inside candle today, above the 5-day moving average on low volume. It has the theme with cryptocurrency. Close over the 5-day moving average, red candle close on low volume is a setup for me where if we gap up the next day, an opening range break is viable versus that 5-day moving average or the pullback low. So that's something that I'll be focused on. And then NVTS, another name that has been relatively weak, but it's been tightening up here. So whenever you have tight price action, you can manage your risk in a better way. So just looking for a breakthrough today's high, stop would be today's low and the 20-day EMA. Also, it would be below the HVC as well. Those are the 6 long setups. We'll get to the short setups. QMCO was up, what was it, 10% today, trying to shake me out of my short. But if we change this to a 5-minute candle, you could see after hours they had either earnings or news, and they just dumped down into that support gap, a mini rally here. So tomorrow I'll be looking for a gap down opening range break to really just flush this. It's one of those quantum names or semi-quantum names that had a monster rally in January, and then instead of like IONQ, RGTI, QBTS, this hasn't gone anywhere, and it actually fell through this base before a mini rally with the strength of the market. And now if we gap down, this can really just break and fall apart here. AEVA, this is on the short watch list just because it's getting extended in the short term. What I would want to see here is a true blow off top move where we gap up, have a monster day, or monster morning at least, where we rally like 7+%, and then we see intraday weakness come in. We lose the view app. That would be my entry versus the high of the day, and then just play this to hopefully get back to the 20-day moving average around $27. Next, we have SMMT. This has been on the short watch list for a while. We had this disgusting candle on the 25th, gap down minus 36% right after making highs. Zoom out, you can see we barely uppercut the highs, and then we failed down 36%. Traded sideways, had another 30% down day, rallied up to the 20-day, sold off lower, higher low, rallied into the 20 and the 200-day, and has just been stalling there while the market's been hot. So a break under today's low would be my entry. Stop would be today's high. HIMS has been relatively strong the last couple sessions after the gap down, but we still have this large resistance gap. We rejected off the 20-day EMA on Friday. I would just look for another uppercut and fail of that rally high as a potential entry, and then stop would be a 1 or 2% stop there. And this was just playing because we have this giant cup, big handle. A lot of people started buying it off the 20-day, supported it in that action, and then they got dumped on and they're underwater in their position. So with the market extended, if this uppercut fails, and then the market's also pulling back and they're starting to see red throughout their portfolio, this is probably one of the first names that they'll dump, and we'll see some selling pressure come back in. And then NAKA, kind of similar to CRCL, where this could break to the upside or the downside. But I'm going to be using this as kind of like an indicator of whether momentum is still hot in the market or if we're starting to see some of these really speculative names start to break to the other side, and then we could start playing more and more shorts. Inside candle today on basically no volume, really tight price action. A breakthrough the high is buyable, and then your stop would be the low. A breakthrough the low is shortable, stop would be the high. Don't need to reinvent the wheel on this one. So that's the market recap for Monday, June 30th. Again, sorry about the nasally voice. I should be better by tomorrow. My wife and I were both sick this weekend, and she's better today. So tomorrow, video will be back on, and we'll get another recap out to you. Take care.